Alright, so we'll do min in max in tiling in repeat in scale in and quality in. Yeah, what are you getting paid again? I get paid nothing. I'm getting paid by Adam. So far he has paid me $1.65, which I will get next month. That is the sum total of the benefits of working for such a slave driver. Alright, so basically what I'm going to need here is I'm going to need to override a whole bunch of this garbage. So I'm going to need to override some of it. Alright, so what is the scale? Scale is a float. So float a scale equals scale. We'll get all this stuff working here. Alright, so where's quality? Quality is here. So let's see, B turbulence. This is a UINT 32. AB turbulence. AB turbulence. Alright, and 32 8 levels. I can go buy a burger then? Actually, in Spokane, that is true. I could actually go buy a burger because Spokane is cheap. That's why I live here. Alright, so we need output min and output max, which are float. So A output min equals output min. A output max equals output max. Where's level scale? Do we care about level scale? Maybe. Filter width input, B tiling, and B repeat size. Alright, so UINT 32, A B tiling, equals B tiling. And repeat size. Okay, so what we have to do after this is basically how the hell do we do this? Alright, well, Let's just see what even this looks like when we chop this up. Shadowing is not allowed. Scale in. Yeah, no shadowing. Value forced to true or false. Let's see if I can actually... No, I can't do any of these. Let's see if these work. Alright, so we've got that compiled in. Let's take a look at what that looks like inside of material land. And what we're doing is we're exposing the variables on one of these expressions so that we can actually use a little bit more customized stuff, so we can make like material instance dynamic stuff instead of being like, oh well, you want Voronoi noise with this other thing? Well, you're gonna have to go click like 20 things and set up another factory line, as opposed to just clicking a goddamn button that says Voronoi noise and hitting the pump. You know, like, and it's stupid. It should be simpler than this. Why has it got to be complicated? Can't it just be easy? And, you know, no, it can't. It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be difficult. Because fuck you, that's why. So of course now this thing looks completely ridiculous because it's got like 20 goddamn inputs to noise. But that's okay. It still works. Alright, so let's start getting the tiling in. Let's just set tiling as a constant that gets put in. Let's see what we get with that. Alright, so we've got what this is tiling in is an expression. Input name is empty, mask, blah 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 blah, expression name none. How do we get a value out of this thing? Expression input, color material input, vector material input. So maybe these things are like, let's just search for F scalar material input and see if we can actually mess with these. We want an F expression input. Of a specific type. Alright, so yeah, let's go to input, compiler, compile. Oh, Atrioid, it's coming along all right. I'm trying to figure out how much I can actually customize some of these things. And it doesn't look like as much as I want. That is unfortunate. Because what I want to be able to do is I want the compiler to be able to resolve these things. So for the noise function, the compile actually has to like because I'm trying to async noise. I'm not sure what you mean, MD Smithson. I'm basically trying to make it so that the noise node inside of a material is parameterizable, so I can change that stuff on a material level more easily than, because right now to make like a different type of noise, you have to actually create a new material and change the noise node and all that stuff, as opposed to having it be like a dynamic thing inside of your material itself. And there's not really a very good reason for that, as far as I can tell. So I'm trying to add some support in there that doesn't exist. So I can make this a little bit easier for us to generate some noise textures and then like update them and mess around with stuff. Because I can see some real value of having some nice noise generation stuff going on in the engine, and you can just like click a few buttons and see what different noise textures will look like. Level scale. This is a constant, and we pass this in, and these are creating these things in here. I mean, basically what I'd have to do is, inside of this material expression stuff here, I would have to turn all this stuff into different constants. So it looked like this. Output min, output max, level scale, tiling, and a repeat size. Output min const, output max const, level scale const, filter width input, and then tiling const and repeat size const. And then I have to edit this HLSL material translator. And I need to change all this garbage to be stuff that we actually pass in. So like this is an H file, so this is the definition of the function as well as the declaration of the function. So what we really want to do is just do like these int32 scale const, quality const, noise function const needs to be at 32. This is, I think, just laziness on Unreal's part, maybe. Or maybe there's a different reason I just don't know for why this is kind of put this way. Maybe there's some checking. That would otherwise be done here, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like this was just like somebody hard-coded this stuff in here, and that was kind of it. They didn't actually make it parameterizable, which I can see happening. Yeah, let's just go into the material system and override the HLSL material translator header. Like, this seems like a really safe plan. Oh, we just locked up the whole damn thing. Alright, so the HLSL material translator.h, we'll do that. We'll snag all this in here, and let's see if it actually does what we want it to do. Yeah, the idea basically is we can make a blueprint object and we got all sorts of angriness coming after us here. Alright, so we'll get some of these things sorted out here. This noise override is not correct because this noise thing here derives from something else. It's public F material compiler. Where the hell is the material compiler class definition? Yeah, those will look pretty cool. Flying around the bottom of the screen. Or top of the screen, or wherever. Here is the definition for the material compiler. Alright. And then we have the definition of the noise function. We're just going to keep messing with stuff, and I'm going to go up the chain until I get it working. We may have to override this for all the different types of compilers that this thing has for materials. But I'll at least learn how some of that works. Because I don't know how the material system actually works, and this is kind of the guts of it. It looks like how it works is it compiles out your instructions into stuff, and it links everything together with like integer symbols and all this sorts of garbage. And I'm wondering if we're going to run into an issue where I actually have to override multiple different types of material compilers to get this to work properly for the target platform. So like, you know, you have to implement something for HLSL and something for like OpenGL and some of this other stuff. Noise must return a value. Alright, so this is the return right there. But it's kind of cool. You can see like here's all these like light maps and gyroplace and two-sided sign and vertex normals and absolutely everything that has to do with the material system, or all those functions get routed through this material compiler. Why do I wear gloves? Hello, Gaga Black Leg. Cool name. I wear gloves because many reasons, but it has to do with preventing the PC mark of the master race, keeping your hands slightly warmer than not, which will help prevent repetitive stress injury, and It's kind of something to fiddle around with, keep you occupied. And I just kind of got used to it. So it kind of helps me get into kind of work mode. If you saw that South Park episode with you know, that which has no life, that is totally where I got the idea. So it looks like we actually successfully got this thing rolling. So I am confused, I am concerned, I'm not confused, I'm concerned that HLSL material translator, is there any other type of material translator.h? I only see HLSL material translator, so I assume there's only one material translator in the entire code base. But basically now what I should be able to do is I should be able to mess with these things a little bit and actually change constants and the rest inside of the material. So let's see if I just like completely broke this thing into tiny pieces, or if it's still here in appropriately sized pieces. So if I go over here and you know, go mess with this a little bit, so like scale is 3, it actually still works. Let's see if the let's see if I can save and quit, and if these values save with me, or if they get all shot to hell. Yeah, it was always funny when I'd be walking around whatever building, and you know, I would be programming for X number of hours or whatever, and I would like totally forget I'm still wearing my gloves. And you know, you get on the elevator to go to some other floor or something, and somebody's like, "Oh man, yeah, going to go work out?" Yeah, I'm just like, "No, I'm going to a meeting." I'm like, "Why the fuck are you wearing gloves?" I'm like, never mind. So I guess everybody assumed I'd be like going to the gym or something. Anyway, so let's actually use something from here. Strangling coworkers? I don't know if I would ever be that nice to people. I would order them to strangle themselves first. Alright, so what I need to do is I need to turn like this Boolean turbulence into a value. So how did that actually work? Was it material compiler? HLSL translator. Okay, so it was in here. Well, thankfully, Karakan, usually I was like the leader of the team or something, so if there was somebody I just wanted to strangle, I would just kick them off my team. Otherwise, like when I was, like a junior engineer, I just would absolutely ignore them. Okay, so for like our tiling const, we just use constant on the actual thing. So let's do the tiling const to start with. So tiling should be this. So let's see. We should be able to say, yeah, so if tiling in dot get traced input dot expression, then we need to set it afterwards, where we would say alright, so the tiling const here, we're going to set it to like -1 or something. So we'll set it to this, otherwise we'll set it to compiling. Basically do tiling in dot compile and then compiler. Alright, let's see if this actually works. Pure self-preservation. I don't know, like I maybe have the superhuman ability that if I decide to ignore somebody, I can completely disregard them. And they don't really bug me that much. I'll still complain about it, but I'll complain about it to other people. It should be really funny, like, when somebody would do something I'd be happy with, I'd be like, oh man, that's pretty cool. I'll stop talking about you behind your back. And it was always really funny because I would always bitch to these same people about everyone else. So when I would say that, they'd have that like half laugh, half like, yeah, he's probably telling the truth. Gotta keep people guessing. That was always one of the other things that I liked about that was something that just happened. Was people would automatically assume I already knew like all the corporate secret bullshit that was going on everywhere. So as a result of them having this perception that I knew all these things that were like going on, people would then tell me what was going on with like all the corporate secret bullshit. So it was always really funny. It was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of I would always know all the stupid secret crap going on because everybody assumed that I already knew, and then they would tell me. Because anybody who has something secret going on, they always have that urge to tell somebody, and if you're the person they talk to, then well, that's just what they do. Alright, so we got the tiling in there. So if we go into our material, so tiling is true or tiling is false. I can't see what the hell's going on. I'm gonna have to do it with something that's real obvious. That's either working or not working. Let's do it with the scale. So let's just do it with the scale there, and we'll see if it actually works. We should be able to play around with the scale, and it is a very obvious thing that changes. It was pretty funny. Oh god, one time I was tasked with doing this like difficult thing that I needed to do for this project at EA, and like they gave me this task. I was supposed to, I think, make like all the UI and everything for the front end of the game, and do all this other stuff. And they had tasked me. It was basically this like impossible amount of tasks that were under my purview. And it was really funny. Like there were some concerns about that I heard about later, and people were like, "Oh man, you know, Kirk won't be able to do this or whatever." So, and my manager had said like, "No, he'll totally like this dude just like succeeds at everything he does." I think the quote was, "If Kirk was fighting in Vietnam, he would have won." It was really funny is once I got tasked with all this stuff, like, and everything we needed to do in the game. My solution to that was, hello F Willer. My solution was like basically 6 weeks later I just resigned. It's just like there's no fucking way we can do this. So I was like, I have a solution here where I can successfully get out of this. I'm going to leave. And the manager was like, oh son of a bitch. Because my exit interview was all like, well, you don't have enough people to actually get this done properly. And I told them you have to hire people to do this. And then they said they didn't have the head count, so I'm going to bail before everything explodes. Just like, well, shit, I guess that's a solution to the problem. So hello, Upwiller. I'm working on some material stuff in Unreal 4. I'm trying to extend the noise node here to take in a value here. Thank you for following, F Willer, or F Willer. Alright, so this scale in, this is 12, and this is 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this one to 12 here, and then this value to 2. And hopefully if I pass the scale in here... Was that different? It totally works. Oh my god. We can override the noise with what we want. So the cool thing is we'll be able to turn these into shader parameters in our material, and then our blueprint can like screw with this stuff. Speaking of avoiding the problem, yes. Well, it's just really funny because you know you get tasked with a whole bunch of impossible stuff, and they all build you up. It's like, he'll succeed, he'll do everything, and then you just realize it's an impossible task, and then you just quit. And they're like, shit, you know. It's like, I think there was one of those Dilbert comics where they give Alice just too much work to do, and she's just she's like getting more and more and more and more stressed until they give her just too much work that's actually physically impossible to do, and all of a sudden she's like, oh, it doesn't matter anymore, and there's no way to do any of this properly, so there's no reason to be stressed. F. Willer, do you make use of the blueprint system a lot, or do you mostly use C++? I try to use both things appropriately. So, for instance, like we've got this water here in C++ land, and we have all these parameters that we can set on it, like colors and, you know, which textures we're using for stuff and everything. And we use blueprints and stuff to kind of manage that. But this water is backed by data, and like, you know, we generate a flow field for it. We've got like a whole bunch of particles that we actually use to simulate all of the kind of to discover the flow for the area, and all that's in C++ land. And so we use C++ for kind of nuts and bolts, heavy lifting operations, and then we use blueprints for everything that makes sense. You know, kind of like what you'd use the scripting language for. You would have the scripting language call into the Pathfinder to say, like, find me a path to an enemy or something. And that Pathfinder wouldn't be in script land, it would be inside of C++ or whatever native land you had. So that's kind of how we're rolling with stuff, is we're using blueprints as a script because that's what works well for it. Let blueprints be the wild, wild west, and let C++ be actual decent code. I think it would be very difficult to write a program here without C++, because blueprints, like, we've had to write a whole bunch of shims. Like, I was here trying to... I've got this noise generator blueprint that I've made, and in order to actually... What I wanted to do was grab the output from a render target and save it to a specific output texture. Like, you just can't do this in blueprints. So I had to go make a function here called update texture from render target. So I could actually go update a texture, like one of these textures down here. So I can basically click on this noise generator, and as you can see, it's updated these textures in the asset database. And normally you can't do that. So it's like, you know, there's just certain things that blueprints cannot do. So I'm going to need to extend these a little bit bigger. I need to write out all the variables for this stuff. And I want to make sure that that texture actually went saved, because it looked like it didn't get marked as dirty inside of the asset database, and it didn't have the automatic saving, which it should have had. So it was this editor utils update texture 2D. I think it's this marked package is dirty is what didn't get called. Yeah, they got saved, but they didn't get marked as dirty, so I think we have to do this marked package is dirty. So let's make sure that that works. Yeah, because I think blueprints are pretty cool, but you know, there's some big problems with it. Like, they're binary assets, so you can't like go back in your history for version control and be like, well, what the hell did this guy do to the AI system? And you know, be like, oh, he changed this variable from 4 to 5, and that's what happened. As opposed to you have to like go actually revert to a specific change list for that blueprint, and then go run it in the game to see what the hell it was, because it's a binary file. I really wish a lot of those U assets for stuff were like JSON or XML, because merging is just impossible. And you know, they already have like some sort of text-based system, because you can copy paste blueprint nodes, and when you copy paste a blueprint node, it has like the definitions of the blueprint. Because if it's copy pastable, you'd think they'd be able to save it properly. Alright, cool. So now, as you can see with our render targets, they do have the little stars on them. And because they have little stars, that means if I do Control-Shift-S, they should all get saved. And that way I won't screw things up. Anyway, I'll be right back. Yeah, Unreal is, I would definitely recommend testing out. If you're going to mess around with some engines, the two engines to learn, or at least become familiar with the concepts of, would be Unity and Unreal. My preference right now is for Unreal, mainly because I can crack open the code and like make real changes to it. Though I'd say Unity has a big advantage if you're interested in mobile projects. Works better for smaller teams. Alright, so we've got our noise generator. So let's implement all of the different things that we need here for this to work. Alright, so let's go from the top. So let's get our quality constant. So we'll just copy paste everything because that's never caused any bugs in anybody's code ever. Alright, so the noise function input, how in the hell are we going to change the noise function input? So what were they doing for the... they were just converting the noise function constant straight across. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Alright, so if noise function in get traced input dot expression otherwise. Alright, so we've got this. Let's just kind of mark these up. So I'll do quality, function, turbulence cost. So we got turbulence in. Alright, so we're going to say the turbulence const is equal to the turbulence in dot compile. Turbulence? It's turbulence, not turbulence. That's a very different thing. Let's just make this smaller because I don't like how it looks. And by making it smaller, maybe we can trick ourselves into thinking this code is better than it is, when in fact it is all just trash. Alright, so levels. Get this rolling along here. Alright, get our output min, output max. And what we're doing is we are setting up our overrides for all these things so that we can override from the node, and we can also override from passing variables into the node. And the reason for that is because